the great Hitman Hoops on Twitter is reporting that PJ Hagerty has multiple offers in the $3 million range. Big Bet Bennett, are you comfortable with your alma mater spending $3 million on a PJ Hagerty?
Yeah, I am. Just because I think it gives you, first off, like one thing that we haven't talked about it is just the, with how college basketball has changed so much. Like the one thing that that I think is missing, especially from just a Memphis basketball aspect, is like, we've over the years had guys that we just like attached to, right? Like that are just guys that are part of the program, that are fan favorites, and you're not seeing that as much in college basketball in general. But it's something that's definitely been prevalent here, but not so much recently. And so I think that's like the biggest thing is not only do you get one of the best players in the country if you bring him back, but you also have something to be excited about going into next season that you're familiar with as a fan base.
To your point, this time last year, how many Memphis fans were familiar with any players who ended up being on Memphis's team?
None. I mean, you knew Nick Jourdain was a role player last year.
But
the year before, yeah.
We could have been in October of last year, and I could have asked most season ticket holders, who is PJ Hagerty, and they might not have had a good grasp for that.
Right.
So by keeping him, if you're able to keep him, it does exactly what you just suggested. It provides an All-American guard, but also just familiarity, something for fans to get excited about.
You can put on your billboards, like when you're advertising, buy your season ticket package, right? He's back.
I will say, this is where you're about to find out what kind of basketball program you're running in this era of college basketball. Because most indications are that PJ Hagerty isn't necessarily looking to leave Memphis. There are plenty of players in the AAC who can't wait to leave the program they're at.
Right.
If they can find anything better. Quante Berry's a great example of that. He was at Temple. He didn't want to be at Temple. He's from Cleveland, Tennessee. You think you want to be playing at Temple? Of course not. He wanted to be playing at Tennessee, probably. In the SEC, perhaps. Hey, Memphis is better than Temple, so I'm going to Memphis. There's no real indication, far as I know, that PJ Hagerty hates Memphis and can't wait to get out of there.
Yeah, Hitman said in that tweet, too, at the end, that he's not necessarily looking for just the highest offer available.
Right.
But you're going to have to get in that ballpark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one thing to say I'm not looking for the most money. That doesn't mean money doesn't matter. It just means that money isn't the only thing that matters. And I think that's true can be true for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. I have turned down jobs before for more money, where if I just said, yes, I'll take this job, I would have been making more money next year than I made in the previous year. Mm-hmm. And I turned that down because that wasn't the most important. Now, I have also taken jobs because it was more money, and I can't pass this up. But I have turned down more money. But it can't be dramatic. It can't be an SEC school is offering $3.2 million and Memphis is offering $2 million. I don't care how much you love Memphis. As a University of Memphis graduate and fan who wants nothing but great things for that university, if somebody offered PJ Hagerty $3.5 million and Memphis said all we can do is $2 million, I would tell PJ Hagerty he has to leave Memphis. I mean, you don't ever he will never have an opportunity to make this kind of money again. Probably. He doesn't project as an NBA player. Certainly not a lottery pick type guy.
Sure.
If he ends up in that league, he'll have to earn it.
Yes.
It won't be because draft analysts are lining up to say he's got to be a top 10 pick. That'll never be his reality. If it was ever going to be his reality, it would be right now. There's only so much you can improve on as a prospect when you are built the way he's built and when you play the way he's played. He's an awesome college basketball player, but the NBA ain't lining up to spend a lottery pick on him. Mm-hmm. If he is really worth $3 million right now, this is probably, not definitely, I never want to put a ceiling on anybody. I mean, there are plenty of people who didn't think Fred VanVleet could play in the NBA, right? Colin Gillespie could play in the NBA. I don't want to put a ceiling on anybody. But what I'm about to tell you is probably true. The most money he'll ever make playing basketball will be next year in college somewhere. and if somebody's offering you 3.5 and the other offer is 2, it is wildly irresponsible to take the 2 instead of the 3.5. So this is where we're about to find out what's real and what isn't. Because, again, there's not a real indication that PJ Haggerty just has to get out of the AAC. There are plenty of AAC players who are like, I got to get out of this league. Mm-hmm. If I had an SEC offer, I'd go. If I had a Big 12 offer, I'd go. If I had a Big 10 offer, I'd go. He might ultimately want that and take it, but there's no indication that he could wait to capitalize on this incredible season at Memphis so he could get out of Memphis. I never got that sentiment. So for the sake of the conversation, let's just assume that he would like to stay at Memphis if it makes sense. Well, now they have to make it make sense. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it might take $3 million to make it make sense. And this is where you run into a situation where there are plenty of schools that can spend $3 million on one player. Mm-hmm. But they are mostly schools in the Big 10 and the SEC and the Big 12. And Duke and North Carolina, right? Those are mostly the schools that can do that. There is no other AAC school, none, that could spend $3 million on one player. None. All right? Couldn't even think about it. If Yaxel went back to Andy Kennedy and said, I'll stay here if you can get me 3, it's just not even like, you got to go. I've had coaches tell me this, by the way. You ready for this? AAC coaches, A10 coaches. I had an A10 coach tell me that he recruited a kid. Kid was a very good freshman this season and would love to have him back. Would love to have him back. Loves the kid. Loves him as a player. Would kill to have him back in this program. You know what the coach told me? He told the kid, you have to go. I can't touch that money that they're going to offer you. I think he believed the young man was going to get offers around $600,000-$700,000 from power conference schools. And this A10 coach just said, I can't in good conscience tell him not to take it. This is not an NBA player. Mm-hmm. He'll never make $700,000 again playing basketball, ever. But some Big Ten school or Big East school or somebody's going to give it to him right now. So I love you, man, and I love coaching you, but you got to go. This is the real thing that's happening in the league. It doesn't necessarily have to happen at Memphis, but we're about to find out.
We are, and I mean, not to mention too, that we still don't know what's going to happen. I think we all assume that it's likely that Dane Danger played his last game as a Memphis Tiger in the NCAA tournament game. But what if the NCAA approves his waiver? Like, what if he's eligible for another year, and wants to come back?
Well,
you got to pay him. You got to pay him too.
Well, what I mean by we're about to find out is we're about to find out how much money does Memphis really have. To spend on a basketball team. That's what we're about to find out.
I hope a lot.
I know how much money Alabama has to spend on a basketball team, and I know how much money Michigan has to spend on a basketball team, and I know how much money Florida is going to have to spend on a basketball team, and Indiana and Arkansas and Kentucky and Louisville. We're about to find out how much money Memphis has. Mm-hmm. And if it's not as much as those schools, then the next question is it a good way to spend your money to spend $3 million on one player? You want to know what happened at Rutgers this season?
They spent all their money on 2 players and weren't good.
That's exactly right. They spent all of their money. I was told 90% of their NIL went to 2 dudes. So what happened? They sucked. They had 2 awesome NBA prospects who were very good college players. Nothing around them. And the team was no good. If you were to ask Steve Peichel, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do? You know what he'd tell you? I'd have picked one of them. Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. We'd have paid one of them. And then we'd have used all the millions we used on the other one to put, instead of spending $3 million on one player or $6 million on 2, I'm making up numbers, don't quote on these, but instead of spending, let's just for the sake of the comment, $3 million on Dylan Harper and $3 million on Ace Bailey, we would have spent $3 million on Dylan Harper and taken that $3 million that we gave to Ace Bailey and bought 4 players for $3 million as opposed to 1 player for $3 million. That type of stuff. And this is the type, if Penny gets to a point where it's like, if we pay PJ Haggerty $3 million, we don't have enough money to go out and fill the rest of the roster up, then you got to really you got to have an internal conversation. Is this the best use of our money? $3 million for 1 All-American guard, or can we get 3 all-conference level players for the same amount of money? Hard conversations, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But this is where we're at. If you're curious, the transfer portal is open and remains open until April 22nd. As of this moment, PJ Hagerty has not placed himself in there. But if you ever hear that he does, it will not be blindly. It won't be because he wants to get in there and see what's out there. If you ever see him go into the transfer portal, it'll be because he knows, and I'm certain he already knows, but that'll be an indication he's leaning toward maybe doing it, that there's real money to be made. I trust the reporting. The number's going to be in this range, and he is either going to get the most money Memphis has ever paid for a basketball player, or he's going to take less to stay at Memphis, or he's going to leave Memphis. One of those things is going to have to be true.
Yep.
He's either going to have to get the most money Memphis has ever paid for a basketball player, or he's going to have to take less to stay at Memphis, or he's going to leave Memphis. One of those three things is going to have to be true.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.